So, I recently had a conversation with someone who was doing market research for a company that was looking to offer an accessibility overlay to their customers. And I actually thought I'd end up going into it being a whole lot more anti everything about that idea. But as I answered their questions, I found myself really discovering a new way to think about and to talk about these overlays. And since I'm not sure my thoughts will have the impact that I hope they will, I'm going to share them with you. So it sort of boils down to these two problems with overlays, right? The first is that false advertising side. That's the stuff that will hopefully continue to get addressed with the lawsuits. The product, the overlay has to come from a place of wanting to help you offer some useful tools to your audience. It's not about instantly making your site accessible or helping to defend you from lawsuits. So if we start from there, if we start from trying to help people put a light dark mode or pause animations button on their site, things that might be situational, something someone might want to change without having to, change their browser settings. Or maybe it's helping somebody that has a specific audience with a specific need, like someone with an older demographic who wants to add a text resizer so that they're not assuming that they just know how to zoom a page. And that's where the second issue comes in. It's when these options that are made available to website visitors don't actually work. So if we bypass that first issue completely by coming from a place of wanting to offer site options to people that they actually need without that false advertising, how can we help offer these things to people in a way that's constructive, helpful, and actually works? And I've got two main thoughts about that. The first is to not do it exclusively in an overlay. You can offer somebody a standalone toggle. Let somebody add code for just that one sort of on-off button to areas of their site, or offer it in a link that we do with things like cookie settings. Is there maybe a way to put it at the top of the page, like my favorite type of cookie banner implementation? It's dismissible, able to be returned to, and then, of course, most importantly, accessible. The second part of this is the implementation, the actual settings when they're on the site. A lot of times these just don't work properly or fully because we're dealing with a ton of variables. There's just no way to make sure that every setting works every time. So someone who wants to offer a tool for their audience sees, the option to add this to your site, and then the platform says, "Great, you did it." There's no understanding of what's actually happening, that they need to, test it or try it out in specific ways. We need to guide people through some of this testing, just like any other guided testing or checklist or, remediation for accessibility issues. And so I imagine the flow would go something like this. First of all, we're not enabling every option available by default. Not every site needs every option, and not every option needs those granular controls. It's information overload and distracting, and it's not really necessary. We want to offer some simple tools to help navigate this site. We're not an operating system. We're not the Cheesecake Factory that wants you to choose every little thing from their gigantic menu. So maybe if we ask a few questions about what's on someone's site. I did this with my Newt tool where you can, choose what parts apply to your site, and it'll spit out some WCAG guidelines that align with those site features. So the site owner can see, a full list if they want of all of the available options, but let's help them choose the best ones. The type of thing that's like, I'm a developer, I know what I'm doing, and then, I'm a site owner, let's set up the tool. Then when they've decided that they want to add one, say the text resizer, we say, awesome, let's get started. And then we start asking them questions to guide them through the process. Do you want an individual widget to be able to add anywhere on your site, or do you want it in a group of widgets? Then it's time to guide them through the process. Maybe a short checklist of things that they need to do before they can finish. And you have the items on one side and the example on the other. In the font resizer's case, it would be something like, check that text doesn't overlap with each other, like, line height and letter spacing. Check that small areas get bigger, like buttons or boxes. Check that the text doesn't get bumped off the screen and it actually wraps instead of scrolls or gets cut off. Make sure all the text gets increased and some of it isn't left as the, original size. You have them actually check these things off. Maybe we can have an actual, preview of their real site while we're checking these things to make sure they work with the site. Then you say, congrats, don't forget to check it periodically or when things change or get added. And then we have their email, we have their information, and reminding them every quarter or, whatever frequency to check their site. We're giving them resources for if it doesn't work, maybe experts or tools or, whatever. Remind them that fixing the problems they encounter with these tools will help everyone, even if they weren't going to use this tool. Most accessibility people aren't saying the concept of providing these options for people is wrong. It's just the implementation and the advertising. So what if we did these things in a way that considered the result? I want this to be a thing. I want people to be able to offer their audience tools to make their time on their site more enjoyable. I want it to work for people who aren't using a mouse. I don't want a bunch of companies just white labeling the existing tools because they think they can make money selling it. So how can we make this happen? Please help me create this or take it and run with it yourself. Let's do this. How do we do this?